Hello, I am Max, the boyfriend,
I'm Celee, the girlfriend.
and this is A Girlfriend's Glimpse, the podcast that comes out every Thursday where I make Celie watch things that she otherwise wouldn't. This week, we're going to be talking about Game of Thrones, or at least our first part of the review, because we have watched,
First 5 seasons.
yes, the first 5 seasons. And what did you think of it, Celie?
I love Game of Thrones. It's very violent. It's got a lot of nudity. It's got dragons. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's got everything that everyone loves.
Right.
But this show is very unique in that there's, I don't even know how many protagonists you could say, and I say that in quotes because it's mainly Daenerys, some of the Starks. Are there others? Tyrion? Like, what are the other main characters in your eye?
Well, I would say obviously the Lannisters, the Starks. If you haven't watched Game of Thrones, spoiler alert, most of them die.
Yeah, Game of Thrones ended a long time ago. Full spoilers.
And the Targaryens, what are they? She married into them.
Baratheon?
No, the savage peoples. You know what I'm talking about?
The savage
Drogo.
people. Oh, the Dothraki.
Yeah, the Dothraki.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like those are the main ones. And the Spider.
There's the Spider.
Yep. And Littlefinger.
Yeah. A lot of those characters are not very likable.
No. There are very few characters in this show that are actually likable.
I mean, I feel like we're going to talk about the seasons and the stories and the narrative within them. But I feel like the best way to bounce off of this show, and we will be bouncing around a lot, is just to talk about the characters. Because I feel like, first off, my favorite character, and maybe this is a guess, but your favorite character is Tyrion.
My favorite character?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Oh, is that...
I like him.
Is that Khaleesi?
You know, I haven't really thought much about who my favorite character would be, because...
I was going out on a limb. I was confident with that.
How do you feel now?
I feel like a fool.
Oh. Oh my. No, I don't know. I like a lot of the different characters, but I don't know if I necessarily have a favorite character above all else.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, that was supposed to be the lead-in into talking about Tyrion, because he is a member of the Lannister family, which is, by all intents and purposes, the villains or the antagonists of the show. And it's really nice to have that dynamic of one of those Lannisters is a really likable character.
He's not absolutely wretched.
Yeah. I mean, he's not a good person, and he becomes better as the show goes on, and he goes to work for and, you know, counsel the good guys. But I really, really like everything that they did with all of that, and I feel like a lot of that goes down to George R.R. Martin's writing. But I mean, what did you like about him?
Tyrion, I feel like I just like how realistic he is, because you know all the other Lannisters get caught up in power and the family name and the blood and all of that type of stuff, and then the Starks are very self-serious too, and like Zuko, honor. But I don't know, Tyrion just seems to kind of go where he's needed, or where he's evicted, or where he's kidnapped.
Yeah.
But he kind of he seems to be able to stay alive no matter what happens. He's been like, his life has been threatened so many times, yet here he is.
He's just got a
Still.
silver tongue. He talks his way out of everything.
He does, and he's good at it.
Yeah. I mean, most of that is just because he promises people money, because he's from the last Lannister family.
Well, we can't do that anymore, because it's failing.
Yeah.
Most of the Lannisters are gone now, so.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, character-wise, a lot of the Starks are pretty much the main characters. You start out with Ned Stark, and he is the driving protagonist of the show. and then all of his kids you kind of attach onto. Were there any of those that you preferred over the others of the Starks?
I really liked Ned Stark, but he died in season 1.
Yeah.
So he got taken away very quickly. But the only reason I like Ned Stark is because he seemed like a reasonable person. And he may have had, King Robert was his buddy, his old pal, but he wasn't afraid to be like, you're making a damn fool out of yourself, stop. And he would just take it.
Yeah.
And they give each other shit. But he was always a little bit intimidated or afraid by Robert. And I think it was just because of what Robert was willing to do to people versus what Ned was willing to do to people.
But I also feel like that was the reason why King Robert liked him so much, because he called him on his bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, because nobody else has the balls to call the king on that bullshit.
And a lot of kings later on use that, edge and that power in not a great way. But, I mean, I guess we can get into more of the characters.
Oh, I know who my favorite Stark is.
Mm-hmm.
Robb.
Oh, that is a very good point.
He got killed though. He was a good one. He was pretty good.
The best.
I forgot about him for a moment, but but I was like, oh yeah.
I was gonna bring that up later, but I feel like to the detriment of this show, and it's by design. Like, this is not inherently wrong, but there's a lot of characters, and a lot of characters die, and you forget that Ned Stark was, the guy in the first season, because after so many episodes and seasons, it's just, you forget these names and these characters, and
there's just so many of them. And it's hard to, just categorize and remember who's doing what, who's fucking who over, who's fucking who.
Yeah.
Like who's done what. It gets difficult to follow, which is why I think them separating the stories and bouncing between them, one, I think it makes it a little bit harder to keep track of, but at the same time, they do come together on some aspects for continuity and congruency. Like, it makes it harder, but at the same time, not.
I feel like that is another aspect that is to the detriment of this show, and that is that a lot of these stories feel so disconnected. And sure, this is later on, but Tyrion goes across the ocean and meets Daenerys, but that's the only aspect of Daenerys' story that has had any bearing on Westeros. Well,
and what's funny is I've heard Daenerys be called so many different names that I don't know what her actual real birth given name is. It's crazy to me because she's Khaleesi, she's Daenerys,
Daenerys is her given name. Khaleesi is the Dothraki name. And then she's got a bunch of other names like Chainbreaker and Mother of Dragons and Slave Freer or whatever.
I think she's awesome.
Yeah.
I think she's so cool. I mean, I think she's still very naive in a lot of senses because now, her first couple of conquers went really well and it went her way. But now that she conquered Meereen and she stayed in Meereen, she's starting to see the after effects, whereas the other ones, she just kind of was like, you're free, and left. And now she's staying and seeing that the masters that she liberated the slaves from aren't happy, and they're carrying out coups to overthrow her or throw her and kill the Unsullied and stuff like that. But she's been faced with a lot of difficulties because some of them have come up to her and some of them have been collateral damage. Like her dragons killed some guy's sheep and then somebody's daughter. And she was realizing that she didn't have as good of control over her dragons as she thought.
Should have never locked those dragons up.
I know, that was bullshit. Those two didn't do shit. It was always Drogon. But, but she also is seeing that, some of the traditions that her, now he's dead. She doesn't have to marry him anymore. But it didn't work out that way.
What was his name?
I don't remember. There's something been, complicated.
Two different people that tried to marry Daenerys in some sort of situation.
And they all ended up dead. It's a
Yeah.
it's a Black Widow situation.
Both. I mean, one of them
She
she
didn't
trapped in a safe, so he's presumably dead now.
Yeah,
Maybe he escaped.
Doubt it. Doubt it, but
But that is something you brought up that I feel like they kind of glazed over in the show until I don't remember which season, but it really bit her in the ass how much she was spreading herself thin. Because, yeah, she just conquered a place and then left and assumed everything was good.
yeah.
And then as soon as she looked back, she realized that, no, these cities are rioting and
Well,
I gotta send people back there.
Right, and what she did was she did liberate people who have been slaves, but she also has to think about a lot of these people come from different cultural backgrounds relatively, and some of those slaves were perfectly content where they were because they weren't being treated poorly per se, depending on who they were with.
It's a complicated issue.
Well, a lot
yeah.
of them were obviously treated incredibly poorly, but some of them were like, I have no other way of life that
there was
I know.
That
and
teacher guy that
I
just
want to go
lived
back to
on
that.
someone's farm and he loved all their kids dearly.
Yeah, he was a teacher, and also the fighting rituals or whatever that they do where
pits.
the fighting pits where they fight to murder each other, and she didn't agree with that, but at the same time, if their free will deems they want to do that, then that's exactly what she was trying to do for them, is liberate them so that they can make their own choices. It's unavoidable that some of them would still choose to do that.
I kind of wish that she came to more of a realization about that if she wants to give freedom to people, that means that they're free to do things that she doesn't agree with.
Right. It's not going to be all rainbows and posies and shit like that. Because the masters that she freed them from revolted heavily and violently because they were pissed. And she tried to be merciful to one of them who inadvertently was killed by, was it Grey Worm? Or somebody who killed that one guy? No, it was one of the
council member. He was like a past slave that she had.
Right. She had to make an example out of him, but that backfired because it just made some of the other people really mad, and some of them were like,
I feel like all of the slaves were on her side, but then at that moment she just lost everyone.
Yeah, because she showed that exactly what she contradicted herself, because she's like, if you don't follow my orders to a T, I'll murder you. That's not necessarily free will. I mean, there's a fine line between governing and tyranny in this show. There's a fine line between just, being in charge of people and having an organized society and civilization, or complete free will where it's total chaos and there's a lot of death, murder, theft, crime, everything. But you have to have an accountability system. But I feel like death should only be the punishment for something drastic. Because in reality, the person that he killed was seeking to kill members that she was fond of. Like he was seeking to hurt her and her council. And I get that you want to deal with it in a diplomatic way, but at the end of the day, death was what he was going to get. At the end of it, because he did kill somebody, and then
in this world,
fighting fire with fire, it just doesn't work.
It's a really complicated issue, and that's what I love about this show, is it's full on just politics of government, and how do you govern a people that want to do something that you don't like. And Daenerys doesn't really go about the right way, and that's why she has a bunch of people rioting against her. But luckily, she's got dragons on her side.
Luckily, Dragon came to save the day. When she was getting surrounded by all the people that were uprising against her in Meereen, luckily, Mr. Drogon came and was like, "Hi, Mom, I'm going to take you." Oh, God. But he just flew her right into another bad situation.
Yeah, he flew her into his nest.
He did something.
Yeah.
He did something, and then he's too hurt, and she's going, we gotta go back. And he's like, bitch, did you not see all the fucking spears in my back? Give me a minute. He just was like, fuck off. Give me a minute. She's like, well, the least you could do is give me some food. I'm like, The least he could do is what he did. He saved
Yeah.
your fucking life. He saved your skins.
I'd say thank you.
Yeah.
About a dozen times.
He didn't have to. And he's a dragon. He could have easily just eaten you for lunch.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that we have talked about just in private. I think, or at least my interpretation of the dragons is, these are intelligent creatures, almost more so than humans. Like, they have a deep, deep understanding of everything.
I would say that their intelligence lies more upon intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I would agree with that.
Because they can't inherently be reasoned with, but they are privy to how people are at a core level. Like, Drogon didn't let Khaleesi touch him when she was on that balcony because he sensed, I don't know what he sensed, weakness in her, hesitation.
Yeah, I don't know.
He sensed something that he didn't like uncertainty, so he's like, nope. But when he came back to save her, he sensed the difference in her and was like, okay, now you're the mother that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And he almost like, I'm reluctant to coddle certain aspects, but if they're intelligent enough to know the difference and be like, and they have their own way of doing it because they are dragons, they don't have the same means of communication, but they do communicate in a way. I mean, the two that she locked in the basement are probably developmentally stunted at this point because she locked them in total darkness.
What is wrong with her?
Because those two were well behaved.
Yeah.
Now all she did was irreversibly damage them so that now they will never behave again. And as soon as you let them loose, they're just going to go on a killing spree, and she may be in the line of fire. On the off chance they might be thankful for it and might go back to what they were doing, or Drogon would, intervene and be like, hey guys, you're going a little apeshit here. We need to chill out. But I don't know if he would.
I can't spoil anything because I have seen all of this show.
I have not.
But yeah, all I'll say is I really, really wish she didn't lock her dragons up. That moment where she put the chains on and then walked out and closed the door. She lost
their trust.
Yeah, I was
entirely.
Basically crying. I think I had like a single tear rolling down my cheek.
I know, and all the other deaths in this, and like,
yeah, it had no effect on me.
No, like that Rob's wedding.
No, actually, that's a lie. When they killed Rob's direwolf, that got me almost.
It's only
teary-eyed.
Animals with you. There's anytime a person dies, you're like, fuck it. I didn't think it was fair that they killed Jon Snow. They said, for the watch. And I'm like, fuck you! Everything he's done so far is for the watch! Like, what do you mean?
Oh, they tricked him too, because they were like, hey, Benjen Stark's here. You remember him? He was from the first season.
That's bullshit. I think that's...
Yeah,
that pissed me off more than anything, because I'm like, why? Like, he was a good person, and he was leading them through, and he was doing what he thought was right.
Honestly, I'm recalling the first time I saw it because he runs down. John's really happy. He's expecting to see his uncle, who
and
he
it
loves
says traitor.
Yep, and it's just a cross, and it says traitor. And then he turns
stabbed
around,
like 6 times.
Just everyone takes one stab as if he's Caesar.
For the watch, and I'm like, you guys just killed one of the best leaders you could possibly have. He was one of the most merciful people. Yeah. The guy that you are following that was in charge before him. Now, you're following somebody who is ruthless and couldn't care less about your well-being as long as you fight.
So what do you think is going to happen now with the White Walkers? I know we should probably save our speculation for the future, for the end, but I'm just curious, what do you think is going to happen with the White Walkers coming and the Night's Watch is
brittle skeleton crew?
Yeah.
I honestly think the White Walkers are smarter than some of the people in charge. Well, at least the leaders.
Yeah, there's a sense of a hive mind, but the leaders.
But the leaders of the White Walkers, they show no fear, no mercy, and they kill precisely. Like, their followers are just like, zombie crazy, don't have much of a thought. But the leaders calculate. And I think that, and they said, if they don't figure out how to swim or climb the wall, I'm like, I think they're going to be smarter than that and wait for an opportune moment, and they're just going to break through the wall gate. Like, I mean, they could probably climb the wall, but they have also seen what you can do and what happens when that happens, because the wildlings already tried that. And they saw what that resulted in. So they're probably going to go, okay, maybe not that.
They got that big anchor that they swung across the wall and killed like 50 people.
I think it's so foul and so unfair that anybody they kill just rises up and joins their ranks.
Oh.
That's so foul. Why?
That's why the White Walkers are so amazing.
That's such bullshit. And you know what I think that they could have done? Well, first of all, they should have kept the dragon glass really close.
They lost it.
Because that was one of the, you know what they could have done with that? They could have put it in a bomb, in a cannon, and wait until there's a huge group of White Walkers, shoot it at them, and it shards all of it at them.
Like one of those nail bombs.
Yeah, and you don't have to use a spear individually to kill them because there's too many.
No, just
they outnumber every army.
Into a crowd of them.
They outnumber every single army. But the only thing I'm wondering is can they venture out of winter?
No, and
because that is what they're limited to. They're limited to the north, because the further south they go, they just can't go outside of that. So they're going to take over the north most likely, or they're going to try and force their way into conquering, the north in the winter and stuff like that, so that everybody's forced to the south, which is going to put a lot of pressure on what Lannisters are left. Also, Cersei being shaved bald and stripped naked and made to walk through town. I mean, I hate Cersei just as much as anybody. She's a vengeful whore. No, she's a vengeful bitch. And she's an ass. And, I mean, it was fun to see that it backfired on her. And it was fun to see her in jail.
All of the religion
but at
stuff.
But at the same time, I think that the punishment she endured, I think that was a bit far. Even for Cersei. I think that one, I think the reason I think that is because what they were shaming her for was not the main reason I hate her. The main reason I hate her is because she's manipulative and selfish and cruel. They were punishing her for being unfaithful in her marriage, which is what Robert did 20 times over.
Yeah.
And they were punishing her for and they were punishing her for that. But not all the other shit that she's done. So that's why that felt wrong to me, because they were punishing her for, just sleeping with, as far as they know of, one person outside of her marriage. And that's what they were punishing her for. Not anything else that she did. Yeah. Just that. And I think that's why I felt like it was unjustified and it was too far. I feel like, imprisoning her and maybe making her like a bit of a slave for a while. Like a housemaid, where she's made to serve the people she wronged and is watched 24/7 so she can't actually be vengeful. That I would have been like, yeah. Yeah. But this one, her walking through the entirety of the city naked with people throwing shit at her and a self-righteous sister lady ringing a bell behind her going, shame, shame. I was going, really? That is rough to watch. That was bad. That was that was hard to watch. That was a hard to watch episode. It was very hard to watch that.
But before we talk about that, and I really, really do, I gotta move back a bit because we mentioned the leaders of the Night's Watch not the Night's Watch, the White Walkers. And to my knowledge, there's 13 of them, and there's one head one, the Ice King, and the Ice King.
Princesses!
I don't even know if his name is the Ice King. It just came to mind.
I think we should just call him the Ice King.
Yeah, he's the Ice King now. He's after princesses.
Gunter!
But we've seen two of them be killed, one by Sam and one by Jon. And
each a different way. They were surprisingly easy to kill.
Yeah, if you have Dragonglass or Valyrian Steel, all you have to do is basically touch them with it.
That's a big weakness, but at the same time, those things are very far and few in between.
And if you don't have them, you're screwed.
Yeah, you try to cut them apart, they'll still be like, ha! Sorry, but no, that doesn't work on us.
And any weapon, they can just shatter like glass, which is really cool to see.
That's so crazy. What makes Valerian steel different?
I could probably explain it if I've read more of the books, but I'm barely into them, so.
Well, it seems like, okay, here's a concept.
Mm-hmm.
Probably means absolutely nothing, but would dragons be their natural mortal enemy?
Yes, I think.
Because fire can kill them.
Yeah.
Like if you burn them,
Yeah,
they can't come back.
Yeah,
like
it's the
that's
bodies.
just that's over.
And I think the main grunts for the White Walkers can be killed or hurt by fire, but there was also that moment where one of the White Walker leaders just walked through fire like nothing.
Well, I think there's a difference of just, walking through a quick, ooh, wow, that's hot, rather than being lit up.
Yeah.
Like, because that's different. But
fire and dragon fire are two different things. And
yeah,
maybe
well, also that's called dragon glass.
Mm-hmm.
So that has to mean something, right? I mean, it's probably just their word for obsidian, but
Yeah.
but they're relating it to the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And as does Valerian steel, is that forged in dragon fire, and that's why it's different?
I bet you the metal has something to do with dragon
scales, dragon
blood or something.
Because dragons seem to be like one of, if anything, I don't know why we haven't seen, and if we have, I didn't realize it or notice it, but they always talk about the gods and the deities. I'm surprised none of the groups have viewed the dragons like that.
Yeah.
Because the dragons seem to be very central in defeating dark magic.
Also, dragons seem
magic.
to be like apparently they haven't seen dragons
Powerful,
for hundreds of years, but dragons are the one like mythological creature that we really see. Like there's dire wolves and there's mention of horse-sized spiders, but we never really see them. Like it's really just dragons. So yeah.
Well, giants.
Yeah, oh yeah, there are giants, you're right, and White Walkers, but and that's something that I do want to talk about is there's
what if
a lot
there are
of
mermaids.
Oh, I bet you there are.
That'd be
And there's
cool.
probably krakens, but there's a lot of magic in this universe, but it's reserved and it's really subtle, and they wait seasons, like 3 seasons to really bust out really cool magic.
Right. Like the sorceress lady.
Oh, the red woman.
The red woman.
What's her name?
I don't remember her name. I just remember that she's red.
Is it Melisandre?
That sounds right.
I could be wrong, but that sounds
but
right.
I couldn't quite figure out what her goal was. Like, I know she was supporting Stannis, and she was trying to perpetuate the sun god and things like that, like the one true. And I was like, but what is she hoping to gain? Like, what she doesn't, I know she uses like blood magic and she devotes herself to the sun god, but it almost seems like she's one of those people that will preach that but has an ulterior motive that isn't related to that religion. And I don't know what her end goal is. What is she hoping to achieve? Because if she has powerful enough magic to kill somebody from a distance at her disposal, as long as she has their blood, why would she be following somebody like Stannis Baratheon?
I think she is self-serving, but at the end of the day, and I could be wrong, but I feel like she's very faithful to this cause. Like she fully believes in the Lord of Light.
Yeah, but what's her end goal? Burn everybody that doesn't believe her? Because it doesn't seem like she tries very hard to convert them unless they serve a particular purpose.
Well, it was supposed to be, serve the king, the rightful king that is Stannis.
But what made her decide that Stannis was the rightful king?
Because the Lord of Light told her,
I
assume.
Who is it?
I don't
How do I know it's not a White Walker? No.
Yeah, we never really see the Lord of Light. And also, there's many, many religions in this universe. And another interpretation of mine is that there is like one cosmic god affecting all of this. And all of these people are seeing this god in different ways, like the Lord of Light and the 7 holy septons or whatever is the same thing.
I would argue that it's the nihilistic point of view, where there is no actual deity, and it's just something that they use to justify means, because magic doesn't necessarily mean that there's a big overarching being that controls it.
I think in this universe, there is a god, and my one confirmation or piece of evidence is that there's the guy that keeps on dying, and the priest begins praying to the Lord of Light, and then he gets brought back.
That could be argued that that's sorcery or black magic, because at the same time, you know who else brings somebody back to life? The maester that's not a maester, Mr. Frankenstein.
That's a different way of being brought back.
Yeah,
like, the mountain is not back to life. I love that, though.
But, like, if that can be achieved through different means, then wouldn't that mean that it's just another form of sorcery or magic rather than a deity granting it? Why would that deity target specific people?
I'm not sure.
Because, like, that would imply that there is a reason for them glorifying one specific person and giving them a million chances. And there was nothing inherently special about that guy other than the fact that he had a priest or somebody who performed an exorcism or something to bring him back to life whenever he died. And
it happened like, what, 5 or 6 times they mentioned?
Well, and what about the many-faced god?
I think that is the same one.
Because if anything, that would be something I would be like, okay, you might be an actual deity, because I don't understand his magic. I don't understand why. Like, I don't know what he is. I don't know what he tries to do, and why is he so obsessed with everybody being nobody?
There was that scene at the end where he killed himself, and then it turned out it wasn't him, and then he was there, and then he kept on taking faces off, and then she went blind. What is happening?
Yeah, why did she go blind? I mean, that it ended in a cliffhanger. So I'm assuming, I don't know if it's a permanent blindness, but it almost seems like it was his way of punishing her. But how could he have done that without, like, poisoning her? But at the same time, when she took off the face, her face was on that corpse.
I think, like, the many-faced god, that's just straight up magic. Like, unexplainable magic.
Like, and how did they take the faces off without it looking horrific?
Maybe that's practical effects. They got Mission Impossible Scooby-Doo masks.
I don't know about that, because the masks that she was removing almost looked like they were mesh, like they were see-through.
Yeah.
But they melded to the face perfectly.
And then when she was returning the mask that she used to kill that Kingsguard terrible guy, like, it looked like an actual skin.
Yeah, it looked like somebody cut off a face, but they did it so delicately, surgically. But
so I think that is what it is, where they take people's faces off and they use it. But
how do they do that? It
wouldn't look
horrible.
That good.
It would look like Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
some shit.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, it would look like Michael Myers.
Yeah,
like.
Isn't Texas Chainsaw Massacre the guy that actually does that, who, like, puts a face on his face? I mean, the Joker also did that.
I tried to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre a long time ago, and I couldn't get through it because it was so gross.
I did not like it.
I'm a horror fan, but like, if it's just a gore splatterfest, I don't appreciate those very much, because it's just using body horror and shock value rather than actual plot.
And I feel like that's another great thing about Game of Thrones, is there is a lot of gore and even horrific scenes that lean on that horror aspect.
But it's tasteful, because there's a plot.
Yeah, I feel
there's
like
a reason behind
whenever someone is split open or they're literally cut in half, it's so that it can shock the audience, because it's supposed to be like, oh my god, this is terrible.
Well, I was really surprised when Oberyn, was that his name?
Oh yeah,
I was surprised
the Dornish prince.
Yeah, I was surprised when he got murdered like that by the mountain. I thought for sure that he was going to win, but he was too hell-bent on revenge. And he had a perfect opportunity to just stab the mountain through the head and be done, but he got his head just crushed like a melon.
Yeah, and just split apart.
And then his wife, or whoever that is, that vengeful bitch, She's just killing
Mm-hmm.
because she's pissed off. She's not killing because they did anything wrong at that point.
No.
She just wants to kill people.
And she even admitted that Marcella had nothing to do with it and she shouldn't kill her. But
She's
then
just being
she poisoned her.
vengeful.
And she even killed herself in that move because of the lipstick.
Yeah, but then she took the
Oh,
antidote
you're
afterwards.
right.
She didn't kill herself. She took the antidote.
I'm dumb. I don't
She
know
took
why
the-
I said that.
No, she took the antidote afterward.
Yeah, so
And-
she's fine.
But the thing is that I don't even remember her name. Lannister child.
Marcella?
Yeah, Marcella.
Mhm.
She's been one of the most innocent people in this.
And she fell
And
in love
she-
with someone.
Yeah, and
And
she
she
was
just wanted to be with him.
Yeah, and they were doing, that was one of the few things that marriages that wasn't horrifically bad.
Mm-hmm.
And she had no reason to kill her other than to just hurt the Lannisters. It hurt Cersei? I don't know.
And the Dornish king, I think he is, God bless his soul, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, no, we don't kill little children in Dorne. We're going to treat her right.
Well, now she just sealed her fate. If anybody finds out what she did, he's going to be like, well, I warned you.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
But yeah, we mentioned favorite characters before, and I think Oberyn might be my favorite, which is why it was so hard to see him die.
That sucked.
Yeah.
That sucked to watch him die.
He
Because
was so much fun.
Well, I was like, he was one of the few that had a just reason.
And he did not judge people for dumb reasons.
No, he was like one of the most open people ever.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't lie about really. He was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's not in the best interest of anybody.
Oh yeah, he didn't like play any political games.
No.
As soon as he showed up, he was like, I am here to kill this guy, and this guy. Can you help me? No? Okay, get out of my way.
Yeah, he was just there to avenge his family, his sister and his, her children.
Yeah.
He was just there to avenge. He was there to right a wrong.
Mhm.
And
He got killed because of it. Because he
Yeah.
was trying to gloat. Which is understandable. He wanted the mountain to suffer, but should have just killed him.
yeah, well, he had the chance.
But I feel like we gotta loop back to Cersei because I really, 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 really hate Cersei.
Yeah.
But that punishment, I feel like, and it's the point, it goes so far into the other side that after a couple episodes of seeing Cersei being tortured and really enjoying it, I start to enjoy it less and less.
Because there's a point where you're like, okay, she's paid the price. We've seen her tortured, but then they keep going and they keep going. And then they made it a huge overstep.
Yeah.
And honestly, anything that is based on extremist religion and stuff like that, and people just judging other people as if they don't do equally horrible, stupid shit to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that I will always have a problem with.
Right.
Like, and if they were punishing her, like, say, like, by all means, yeah, shave her head so what its hair will grow back. But I feel like a punishment that would have been, like, achieved what they were trying to do, but been less of an atrocity on humankind and women in general, was if they did, like the Scarlet Letter one where they just, put her up in publicly somewhere and just put her in tied her hands together and made her just stand in the square and people can yell at her.
Yeah.
Fully clothed. And just people can yell at her, but making her walk naked feet from these people, getting spit on, getting blood thrown at her, I'm assuming shit thrown on her too.
Yeah.
Getting
every manner
and then having somebody walk behind her with a bell going, shame, shame, shame. Like,
and I don't
that
know,
was far.
I don't know if you noticed, but that woman with the bell, that was the mom in Sex Education of the athlete guy.
Oh, I didn't notice.
It's also the manager from Ted Lasso, but you haven't seen that show.
But I don't know, the holier than thou stuff is just annoying to me.
Mhm.
It's annoying because I'm like, I'm looking at all of you and I'm seeing like, I guarantee you guys have done maybe not as bad as Cersei, but you've done a lot of bullshit that warrants punishment too.
And that's what this show does really, really excellently, is it gives you a character that you hate, and then it gives you someone to hate even more. Because this entire religion cult, what are they called again? I don't even remember.
I don't even know. And they carve the
is it the
symbol on their...
sparrows? The high sparrows or something. I don't know.
Something like that.
But yeah, they, like you were saying, they carve the thing on their forehead,
That's
which is just
so far. Like, there's... And isn't the... Here's the other kicker that I didn't realize at first.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that they're punishing her for sleeping with is a part of their little cult and is getting away scot-free, even
because
though he was
repented.
Even though he was... Yeah, but seriously... did the same thing in front of him, yet they still chose to do that, and it's because she's a woman. It's because she's a woman, down to it. If it were a guy, they wouldn't have made a guy do that. They would have probably made him fight somebody, or they would have, like, cut him up a bit, but they wouldn't have made him walk naked through the entire city.
Mm-hmm.
And a nun going, shame, ding, shame, ding. Like, I don't think they would have done the same thing if it were a guy in this scenario.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were doing it because they know that at least in this society, in the show, women are a lot more vulnerable to criticism and judgment and attacks, because the king that she was married to, his indiscretions were in the double digits, like far in the double digits, and nobody cared.
Did he have?
Yeah, and nobody batted an eye because he's a guy.
Mm-hmm.
But and seriously, albeit she probably should not have slept up her family tree, but
that's disgusting.
But she sleeps with one guy, and then she's subject to that punishment, whereas King Robert is known as one of the great kings of the Seven Kingdoms. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it's obviously a double standard there.
Mm-hmm. And there's a big double standard in this universe, because women are basically just used for titles, which really sucks, but...
Property, titles, leverage.
And there's exceptions where people try to gain power, sometimes in bad ways, like Cersei, and sometimes in good ways, like Daenerys. But on the majority, if you're born a girl in this world,
I really, really, really want Cersei and Daenerys to meet. I so badly want that to happen. I don't know why. I think it's just because relatively they're the two strongest female characters in this show. Like, they hold or held the most power,
right?
And have been in charge without a man, claiming that power. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, I feel like that would be really cool to see those two meet each other. I don't even talk about fight. I don't think they'd fight, but I just want to see them sit down and talk about shit. Because you got Cersei on one hand, who is a malicious bitch. and she gains her power and leverage through very unethical standards. Whereas Daenerys, she has good intentions, and she just wants people to be able to be free. And she wants to pioneer a new era that is geared toward, democracy and freedom to an extent. But, and
for now,
she also has dragons. That's pretty good leverage.
Yeah.
That's a good threat.
I mean, I'd say an army is worth like one dragon, so.
And she got 3, but only one of them is actually, compatible right now. The other 2, I think she sealed that fate and nailed that coffin shut when she locked him up. Right. Because now they will never respect her or listen to her because she betrayed their trust. They weren't the ones that went around killing people. It was Drogon. We've
mentioned it like 3 times now, but why did she put them in the cave?
It's because she was afraid that they would follow suit with Drogon. And she had no guarantee that they wouldn't.
Yeah.
And those were the ones that she did have more control over, because Drogon was just off doing whatever he wanted. And she was probably also afraid that if all of her dragons were out of her control, that it would lose her power points. because she's the mother of dragons, and that implies that she has some control over them. But since one of them was rampant doing things that she didn't want them to do, if the rest followed suit, she would lose that power. Because they would view it as, oh, you can't even control your dragons, you're the mother of dragons.
Right.
So it was a form of, one, trying to protect her name, and also trying to protect the people she was trying to free, because she had no guarantee that those two would act differently.
I think it just made me upset in the same way that I think it was the first season where one of the dogs bites Joffrey's hand, the dire wolves, and because
in defense of the owner, because he was being a twat.
And because Nymeria runs off, which she's still off there, I assume she's gonna come back at some point. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't, I don't know. But because consequences need to be consequenced, they kill one of the other direwolves, Lady, which is Sansa's. And it's just like,
that isn't fair.
It's not fair at all. And you're not gonna teach the right lesson.
No. Ensuing violence with violence just equals more violence. It doesn't stop anybody. It just makes people better at getting away with things. Yeah. Or makes them more violent, which doesn't fix anything.
But I feel like I'm not sure what else we can talk about. I mean, we talked a little bit about Arya, but I do want to mention that she's on her Batman adventure because a lot of her family was killed in front of her, or she barely missed them, and then she went off searching the world for knowledge and skills, and now she's training with the League of Assassins. So she's Batman.
She's gotten really calloused and badass. Also, what they failed to conclude or like to say about anything, which I assume in the next season they're going to, is whether or not Sansa and Reek are dead. Like, they jumped off a wall, and I was like, wait a minute, what are you two doing exactly?
I can't even remember what exactly saved them. Honestly, it's a little ridiculous if you assume it was the snow, but I'm gonna say it was the snow.
Well, they didn't confirm anything. They just showed, well, we're jumping by!
And then I'll see you in a few years.
I was astounded that Theon actually did that. Like, I was like,
pushed the,
you've been whipped. Like,
what was it, the dog's girl or something?
Yeah,
the kennel master's girl.
Pushed her off of the building, and she just went, ah! I was like, whoa!
So satisfying to see, though. I love that.
Holy fuck. I know that was satisfying, but it was unexpected. I didn't expect him to do that. I was like,
oh shit.
Whoa.
And Theon has been, that's another character similar to Cersei.
He got overpunished. It was way over the line.
You don't like him, and then he gets tortured, and then it's too much, and then he loses his dick, and then it's way too much.
It was just too much to torture him like that. Like, I know he took over Winterfell and he killed 2 random stable boys, but I mean, who hasn't? At this point.
In this world, who hasn't?
But
I
know he wasn't even being punished for what he did. He was being punished because Ramsay liked it and found joy and pleasure in doing so.
And that's where Joffrey was a piece of shit, but he was a little incompetent. And
he was like 17.
Yeah. And he got poisoned, and it was really fun to see him die.
Yeah, I was like, thank God.
But by the time he was dead, Ramsay had been well established as a terrible person, and now it's kind of just like Ramsay is the worst person in this entire world.
He's a psycho.
He's terrible.
I can't wait to see him die if he does. I hope so. I hope he gets his comeuppance.
I mean, everyone dies in this show. Literally everyone.
They're killing off all the family lines. They're going to have to introduce new ones.
Maybe there was a hidden Stark that we haven't seen. No.
Oh, the only 2 left are Sansa and Arya.
And there's Bran.
Well, Bran, but he's off on his little side quest. I don't know what he's doing.
He's talking to a tree.
Yeah, what the fuck is he doing? I don't know what he's doing. He's just off on a side quest, and we haven't heard from him in a while. But I mean, those are the only ones left.
Yeah,
really. And then the Lannisters have been whittled down to bare bones.
How many Lannister kids are there? Is there just one?
One left.
Yeah, it's Tommen.
after she died.
We haven't mentioned it, but Tommen's a great king. Well, he's not a good king. He's a good person.
He's too young to be good at ruling anybody. He's too young for that, but at the same time he's a kind person.
Mhm.
He's gentle, and he doesn't like violence. He doesn't like confrontation. He just wants everybody to have a good time.
To quote Black Panther, he's a good man, and unfortunately it's hard for a good man to be king.
Yeah, because sometimes I especially in universes like Game of Thrones, you have to be kind of a jerk.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm trying to think of anything else that we might have missed. There's Brienne of Tarth. She's a really cool knight.
She is, but her loyalty is just making her life so much harder.
There's recasting because in the tree that Bran is talking to, I mean, in the future, that old guy, he will be recast as Max von Sydow.
Well, I didn't even remember what he looked like now, so yeah, briefly saw him. But the one...
Yeah, the one recasting that really threw you off.
Because they don't even look anything alike at all. And I was like, who the hell is this?
And that's, what is his name? Dario Naharis? Am I getting him mixed up with someone? Hopefully not. That sounds right, but
I was like, who are you? Like, when did you get in here?
And you grew a beard, too.
Well, and then you're like, oh, they just, had to recast that guy. And I'm like, they couldn't have gotten somebody that looks at least somewhat alike to the first one?
Yeah, Ed Skieran, the first one, he, I think, was in a movie, so he had to pull out.
That was a big leap because that guy looks nothing like the first one.
Yeah. I mean, I get not casting similar looks and just casting someone who's a good actor, but it does really throw you off.
They didn't even pop a wig on this other guy to make him blonde.
And I think they could have had some dumb line where just like, yeah, I got a haircut, even though he's a foot shorter.
They didn't acknowledge it.
And has a beard.
They didn't acknowledge it. There was a glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah. But all of this show, it's fantastic. There's a billion characters and only about 10% of them are actually likable. But all of these characters are really three-dimensional and they're dynamic. And honestly, I cannot get enough of Game of Thrones.
I know. It's a good show. I enjoy it a lot.
Out of 5 brownie points, what would you give Game of Thrones? The first, I'd say, what was it? Season 1 through 5 that we've seen?
Yeah.
Okay, so out of that, what would you give it?
I'm going to give it a 5 just because it's something, it's something that I look forward to watching. Mm-hmm. Which is why I'm going to say that.
Is this our first 5? I don't think so.
No, there's one more before it. I can't remember which one.
I haven't kept track of the actual score. I should keep an Excel spreadsheet. But this has been a girlfriend's glimpse into a Game of Thrones. Dun, 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 dun.